Welcome to another episode of Purchase to Profits. I'm Seth Ferguson. Make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss our daily interviews with successful real estate investors. And I've put together the top 7 key market drivers I look at when analyzing a real estate market. Go to sethferguson.org to download your free copy. Our guest today got started in real estate at an early age, knocking on doors in his teens. He specializes in lease options and generating multiple paydays in just one transaction. Nick Prefontaine is the smart real estate coach. Nick, welcome to Purchase to Profits. It's great to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me, Seth. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, really looking forward to this. You've got a really cool story. So let's kick things off and tell us about your real estate goals right now and where you want to go with real estate.
Well, my real estate goals right now, currently I'm spending a lot of my time every day still in the trenches. We're still are doing our own deals, selling homes, acquiring them on terms like rent-to-own, owner financing, subject to that kind of thing, non-conventional, and then selling them on terms. So I actually specialize in working with all the buyers and getting the property out there, getting the property marketed. And actually, I'm spending a lot of my time, I kind of split it between working with our buyers for our business and also working with our associates that we have all over the country. We have a bunch of them all over the country. And I'm actually working with them in the trenches to help them through their first deals so that they can get to the closing. We call it a closing. It's really nothing more than a formal lease signing. So that's where I spend a lot of my time today, helping the associates get their first few deals done successfully.
Yeah. And, like lots of investors can relate to being right in the trenches, working and grinding every day. Do you set targets for yourself? Like, do you say, hey, by the end of this year, I want to have this amount of growth? Or like, how do you look at things?
Yes, we do. That's a great question. So we have our Kingdom Tower mission is what we call it here. And we're all striving towards that same thing, which is 1,500 transactions amongst both us and our associates, like I mentioned. We're now doing probably in between anywhere from 12 to 15 deals per month between our personal buying and selling entity and our associates that we have all over the country. So we're pretty active.
Gotcha, for sure. And what would you say is your biggest challenge right now in your business?
Biggest challenge in my business is always working, just because when you say your business, I always take ownership of the buyers and every step of the way, every step within that process to working with the buyer, getting them educated, getting them into the home for a viewing, and then getting them after the viewing, reviewing their application with them, their next step forms, we like to call it. And then I will get them to the attorney, to their closing, arrange that with the attorney. And it does require a lot of follow-up. You gotta, nothing's turnkey. Nothing's like a push button get rich scheme. It does require a lot of follow up, and you gotta stay on top of it each step of the way. And it's really coaching our associates through that, teaching them what we know, so that they will be able to get to the closing table and realize a great profit for every single deal.
Yeah. And for those listeners and viewers who might not be familiar with your model, like you said, purchase on terms and all that stuff, can you give us a brief overview on that creative side of real estate?
Sure. So there's only roughly 18 or 20% of the market of buyers who can qualify for a loan today. So we work with the other buyers out there, the bigger pool of buyers, to get them into a home. Once we get equitable interest, of course, once we tie it up on terms under contract. So we tie it up through either a lease purchase, subject to their lease purchase is one way, and then subject to, we'll buy property subject to the existing loan. Owner financing is another great strategy that we use for properties that don't have any underlying debt on them. And then once we're able to get them under contract, then we go out to the market out there of the bigger pool of buyers. Now, there is only roughly 18% of the market that can walk into a bank today and get a loan. That other bigger pool of buyers, they're not all good. However, in there, there's a large portion of them who, for whatever reason, Seth, won't be able to get their own loan today. We find that with a little coaching, we'll get them connected with credit enhancement and that kind of thing. We'll get them hooked up, get them a plan so that by the end of their term, whether it's a year, 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, or even 30, 36 months, they're that much more likely to be approved for their own loan. So we'll give them time. That's basically what we're giving them, and we'll give them a path towards home ownership.
Yeah, it's a really good system because, you guys as the investors are benefiting from that increased cash flow and having that deal lined up down the road, and the buyer's able to profit because they're able to get into a home when they otherwise wouldn't be able to through a traditional lender.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, and it's actually the success stories. It's actually good to hear. Good to hear this, especially for your listeners. So last week we sell these homes on a rent-own agreement, like I mentioned. Now a lot of the people out there that you'll talk to, other investors or on forums or anywhere you go at RIA meetings, will tell you, oh yeah, that never works. That doesn't work. The buyer never gets their own loan. Just this year, we're having several, usually one or two every single month, that are at the point where they're able to get their own loan. We had one closed last week that the buyers bought the home on a rent to own, probably, I would say less than 2 years ago, or about 2.5 years ago, they purchased a home on a rent to own agreement through us. We brought them through our process and everything. And then it got to the lender, it got to the closing attorney. And we, again, like I said, have to walk them through each step of the way, but it got done. So we're so happy for this family that we were able to get them approved, get them finally cashed out, and get them their own loan on the property. It's really, it feels good to do that. And like I said, we're doing a few every month at this point.
Yeah, hey, good stuff. And like I mentioned in the intro, you started off knocking on doors in your teens. You were like 16, 17. So how did you get wrangled into the business?
Well, I will actually take you back a little before that. Only 2 short years before that, I got into a snowboarding accident. Seth, I was at a ski club with my school, and on the way to the mountain, I just realized I brought my stuff on the bus to get ready, realized I forgot something. And getting ready, I noticed that I forgot one thing that I do usually bring to ski club, and that was my helmet. I'm not saying I was a saint by any means, but most days at ski club, I would bring my helmet. And then going up the chairlift, once we got to the mountain, I just noticed it was very icy because people were wiping out everywhere. But I mean, that didn't really stop me, just because it wasn't like my first time snowboarding, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
So I buckled in and headed towards the biggest jump, and then going up it, I caught the edge of my snowboard. That threw me off balance, and I was kind of forced to go off. There was no option for me. I couldn't stop, and I was already committed to it. And in the air, I fell like this and landed on my head. And I was in a coma for 3 weeks. And the doctors told my parents that I probably wouldn't walk, talk, or eat again. Then, obviously I did, because I'm here talking to you. Then 2 short years after that, I was door knocking pre-foreclosure doors. And I really don't even think my mom realized it until last year, but I would go I would go into not so good areas of cities. And the only reason I would do that, Seth, was because I found that they had the highest concentration of NODs. I had a list. I was working off a clipboard, and the list had the notice of default, people that have received the notice of default from the bank. So I would print that list and go to the areas where I could get the most doors done in a day. And my mom just found out when I was speaking at our QLS Live event that we actually have coming up next month. But last year I was speaking at that. She had no idea that I was doing this. And only at the time, only 16, I would go and knock on people's doors that have received the notice of default, try to set up a meeting with an investor from our team to see if we could help them out of their situation and buy their house. I don't know if that answers your question.
Oh, for sure. Well, you know what? I just have to say, what mom doesn't know can't hurt her. So,
yeah, she found out, and she was like, "You shouldn't have been doing that." I think she said something to my dad.
Yeah.
But, it really taught me from an early age to sell and to be at what that was about, through trial and error, you know?
Yeah, for sure. And I'm always curious about the impact of having, let's say a worst case scenario happen in somebody's life and the effect it has on them once they're out on the other side. So can you just explain to us, how did your brain change and how you approach things, how you approach life, from before that to after?
That's a great question. I really don't have, now I forgot everything. When I got in the accident, I literally forgot everything. I forgot how to take care of myself, how to swallow, how to walk. So coming out of that, my family members or my sister mainly, she'll say that, no, you're definitely different than I was before my accident. But I think a lot of that, Seth, is maturity too, because I was 14 years old when I got my accident. So I think a lot of that is maturity. But I can't really say. I don't know. Could you repeat the question?
Well, it's just like, you were told that you would never walk, you would never eat by yourself again. And I'm sure, when you're told that, it has a pretty dramatic impact on you at the time. But then, you fast forward in time, now you're walking, now you're knocking on doors in some pretty sketchy spots. So does that give you an extra fire in your belly, or does that give you a chip on your shoulder?
It gives me, that's a great way that you phrase that, because it actually, I didn't at the time, I had no idea that the doctors said that, because
Oh, really? Okay.
whenever the doctors would come and talk to my parents about the grim news, they would give them, like, every day was worse and worse. When I first got my accident, they would say, no, not in here. Let's go outside the room, even though I was in a coma. So, excuse me, they didn't want me hearing that, because obviously your subconscious is at work, not obviously, but a lot of people think, and at least we did at the time, that the subconscious mind is still working. Even though I was in a coma. So they asked the doctors to speak outside. So I really had no idea. So I just did. Every day I would get up and just do what was in front of me and do the best that I can with what was in front of me. And that's how I approached the whole situation. Just to do the best I can with everything, every single day. And then after finding out, like later, after fully recovering from my accident and everything, finding out that I was told I probably wasn't going to be able to walk, talk, or eat again. Yeah, it does. It does give you a little extra confidence, a little extra believability about yourself, because really now to this day, I approach everything like, well, just let me try it. Like I'll figure it out. Just you got to start. Um, you got to start and attempt it. That's the best way I learn, is to, if it's something new, just give it to me. I'll make an attempt at it. And then once I do that, I can get better, of course, but without attempting it, I won't have any semblance of what to do.
Yeah.
So I think, yes, to answer your question, it does give you a little extra, or it gave me, at least to this day, it does, a little extra oomph.
Yeah, every good investor needs some oomph behind them. So what sort of routines and rituals have you developed that have helped make you successful in real estate?
I think the things that, and this is more of a personal thing. Every day, like for example, every day I'll get up and I'll meditate. I'll have a little lemon water. Not important. I don't know why I said that, but then I'll meditate for like 30 to 40 minutes, and then get ready, and I'll end up reading and writing in my journal, and just trying to reflect and get better and grow myself every day for approximately 30 to 50 minutes, I would say, every day before I start the day. And that really gets, the reason that I go through that, and I didn't always do that, but the reason that I do that now, it just gets me centered and really gets the day started out right for me.
Yeah, I hear a lot of people just preaching about the benefits of meditation.
Yeah, absolutely. I've actually been doing it now. I really can't believe I'm saying this, but I've been doing it now for probably about 10 or over 10 years.
Wow.
And how I stumbled upon it was completely by, I want to say, it was complete luck. It wasn't anything I planned or anything. And it just, I got connected with this great Chinese energy guy, healer, Qigong master, Tai Chi master. And I started going to him for treatments. I still see him for treatments every 5 or 6 weeks or so. And he's actually coached me along the way about how, like, what to do in the meditation and everything. And I know I reference that I do it for 30 to 40 minutes every day, but I didn't start out that way. I mean, I started out 5 or 10 minutes, and then over time it grows. And then now I do it for 40 minutes, and it goes by like a blink every day, or
Yeah.
most days. Again, I'm not a saint, but most days.
Yeah. No, that's I should start trying that, because there are so many people who preach the benefits of it, and they say, like you just did, it makes such a big impact on how you feel. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, just like, it's not rocket science. Just start off small. Start off for a few minutes at a time.
Yeah.
That's
No,
all.
for sure.
Just sit and reflect. That's what I think.
Yeah.
I know
No.
this is real estate. This is a real estate show, so sorry to divulge into that, but
No, but you know what? The most important, what I found, because I've done about 200 interviews now. The coolest thing I found is the stuff that makes people successful in real estate has nothing to do with real estate.
yeah,
It's and the more I talk with successful people, the more and more that becomes apparent. The important real estate stuff has nothing to do with real estate. So maybe that'll be the title of my next book.
yeah, absolutely. I think that's valid.
Yeah.
It really, I mean, anyone can learn, real estate or any niche in real estate. It's just, that's an interesting point that you brought up.
Yeah. You know what? I'll start writing the next book after this.
That's good.
Yeah.
Start it. Send me the first draft of the first chapter. All right.
Sounds good. Well, next month. There we go. there we go. Well, let's before you lock me down on an actual timeline, let's hop over to a keystone deal. So a deal that made a big impact on you in the business. Is there one that comes to mind?
Well, yeah. So I'm going to take you back to around the time that I was door knocking. So probably a little after that time, I had actually purchased my first property with my dad. I was about 16 at the time. I remember it to this day. I had my learner's permit, and I was like, please, 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 can I drive to the closing and everything, and then drive to our house in Newport? And my dad's like, all right, fine, you can do that. You can drive. But that was kind of my I don't want to say foray, but that's what I did. So I did doors, and then I bought the first home with him. Little commercial building that we actually still own to this day. We're in the process of talking about owner financing and terms deals. We sold it to a gentleman that is doing great with his business. Has a window business. He's already invested a ton of money into the building. And he's already put a ton of money towards the deal. So hopefully he'll cash that out within the next year or so, or few years. So that was probably, I don't know, I was pretty proud of that at the time, and I was happy to do that. I actually had that money saved up from my car washing business. When I was younger, I had a motor scooter, and I would load up all my car supplies on the motor scooter and go to neighbors' houses and wash their car with all the materials and everything. And then I would go to the next one and do the same thing. And every time that I would have a good weekend, I would bring the money to my dad, and he told me, well, if you invest this, like, I'll match it. So I gave it to him 100% of it every time. And then over time, that grew to at least half of a down payment on a small commercial building in Smithfield. So that's that. I kind of look back on that as kind of a start to my real estate business and everything like that.
Yeah, and most 16-year-old boys have other things on their mind other than real estate. For most, real estate's like the last thing on their mind. So what was it? Was it just growing up in that environment with your dad involved? What was that kind of what led you to buy your first property so soon?
Well, I was always I literally grew up in the business. Like when I was a toddler or young, or not toddler, but when I was younger, when I was like 5 years old, my dad was a builder. Then after that, he was a realtor, then an investor, and then back to a realtor for a few years, and then as an investor finally, and now what we're doing. So that was all I knew growing up. So growing up, right after I graduated high school, kind of took that summer off to take it easy, but I started that September to study for a class to get my real estate license, and I ended up getting my real estate license, get this, in March of 2008. The best time, if any of you just have any idea about the last market correction and the last market crash. So that was then I got my real estate license. And my dad, even though my dad and I weren't necessarily doing the same thing always, but we shared a little office right in Newport, a little hole in the wall office down the street from our house. And I got to witness, just because at the time before the 2008 crash, he was an investor, but he was doing everything with cash, like hard money loans, or signing personally on loans on properties. So that kind of, I got to witness from afar, not from afar, from literally the next room, the debt collectors calling every single day, and how brutal they were, and how much time my dad had to spend from that. Because I mean, at the top of it, I think he had about 27 units, all either, like a hard money loan or signed personally. So he had investors calling, banks calling, lenders calling every day, and that took up a lot of his days. And that's kind of how we re-engineered how we buy and sell. So to what we're doing today, where we don't sign personally or get like hard money loans or anything like that anymore. It's all without signing personally, without credit needed, without our own money. In most cases, unless we're rolling it over from another deal's profits. But it's not like we save up hard for a down payment and then we buy another house. That's just not how we do it anymore.
Yeah.
So if your listeners would be interested, what I have today as a gift for them is our second Amazon bestseller, The New Rules of Real Estate. It's by my dad, and then it's also with my brother-in-law Zach and myself contributing to that. So if they go to newrulesforfree.com, again, newrulesforfree.com, they can fill out their info there. We'll send them a free book, and yes, we'll take care of the shipping. A lot of people, and you're kind of chuckling there because a lot of people will say a free book, but then they're like, oh no, wait, you got to pay $10 for shipping. So we're taking care of the shipping and all that. So
yeah. And I have to say, you guys sent me a copy of the book when it first came out. I read through it and I really enjoyed it. You guys did a really good job.
Oh, thanks for saying that. I appreciate that.
Yeah. No, you're very welcome.
Yep.
You guys did good work. So how has real estate impacted your life? Like this is an interesting question for you because you've been exposed to it so early, but like how has real estate really changed your life for the better?
How has real estate changed my life for the better? Well, as you said, it's a very interesting question for me just because real estate is all I've ever known as far as income and that kind of thing. So I've had a very fortunate life, very blessed in more ways than one, having recovered from my accident, having a supportive family and everything. But I think real estate, and this is something you mentioned earlier, real estate is the reason why it's so good as far as either an investment vehicle or for a source of income where like you're being a realtor, you're being a wholesaler, like you gotta make deals, you gotta do it like to get paid, you have to do that every day. The reason it's so good, just real estate in general terms, is for what it affords us to do, like with our time. We can spend our time doing our passions and things that we're interested in, as opposed to having to work 9 to 5 for a corporate job for something you don't care about. It enables us to control our time, and we're able to spend it how we want it with limited involvement. I mean, it's still work, as I mentioned. You have to manage everything and follow up on everything. But once you get it dialed in, it doesn't take a lot of time per day to accomplish the same amount of tasks.
Yeah, for sure. So let's look ahead 10 years from now, so a decade. Where do you see yourself being in real estate in 10 years?
Where do I see myself in real estate? I really, our Kingdom Tower mission that we said, the 1,500 transactions, that's a 5-year plan. And we're in the thick of that right now. We're in the middle of that right now. So really that's my focus right now, to help our associates, because once they're able to do their first few deals, then they're able to do it on their own. They don't need so much of our help and involvement. But definitely helping more in that regard, I think. Helping more people be able to achieve financial freedom and be able to control their time and have that freedom, that independence from corporate job and be able to control their lives.
Yeah.
So I think even though that goal, like that is far in the future, I think I'm still going to be helping people in one way or the other to get control of their time back.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. And time, we are all running out of it. So we can't get time back. So it's the most valuable thing we can do.
Exactly.
So if somebody's looking to get in touch with you, Nick, learn more about what you're doing, or maybe reach out, how can they find you?
Yeah, if any of this, kind of piques your interest, and you're interested in learning a little bit more about the way that we buy or sell, and to kind of start the process and start exploring it to see if it's a good fit for you, they could go to our website, Seth, which is smartrealestatecoach.com. Again, smartrealestatecoach.com, and they can get registered right on there for the On Your Terms webinar. That's loaded with content. I believe it's almost 60 minutes long. Little shorter than that, but there is a lot of content, a lot of information there, and I think by the end of that, they'll be able to determine whether it's a good fit for them.
Yeah, for sure. No, good stuff. Well, I just want to say thanks so much for taking the time and sharing those stories and experiences with us.
I appreciate it. I love being here. You're welcome.
Yeah,
Thanks for having me.
Pleasure was all mine. And to you, our viewers, I wish you well on your journey from purchase to profits. See you next time.